Hey, it's Amy from Worthy Written Words, and today we're going to be in 2nd Nephi chapter 25, verse 13 in our Book of Mormons. We're going to start by washi taping the border here and the verse so that as we put distress oxides on our pages, we don't smudge it onto the other page or onto the verse that we're highlighting. Next, we're going to put a piece of scrap paper under our page, and the supplies that we're going to be using are distress oxides. So we've got squeezed lemonade, mustard seed, sponge sugar, and shaded lilac. You only need one of these mini ink blending tools, but you do need 4 sponges, one for each color. And I like to just Velcro them to the bottom, the sponges, so that I can keep them. And if you're going to take them off to switch, make sure you pull it off by the black part. Otherwise, the black will stay and you'll ruin your sponge. So we're going to start with the lightest yellow, and we're going to put that at the bottom, just doing circular motions across your page. And at some point, you're going to reach the darkest that the color will go. So it's up to you to decide how light and how dark you want it to be. So now I'm switching to the mustard, and I'm doing that on top of the lemonade. You can see how it's darker. And so I'm just doing circular motions to try and help blend them together a little bit. And I want to keep the yellow along the bottom. I don't want to bring it up too high because I want the majority of the page to be pink. So after I feel like that's been blended well enough between the 2 yellows, I'm going to switch my colors and start using the sponge sugar. And what I do is I start above the yellow and then work it down into the yellow rather than starting in the yellow and going up. You just start a little bit above it and blend it down into it. Last, I'm going to use the shaded lilac, and I'm going to put it only along the top part of the page. And again, rather than starting in the pink and working up, I'm going to start above the pink and work my way down. That way you just get more of a blended look instead of it being harsh lines between the 2 colors. And in fact, I'm going to bring the purple down, and then I'm going to go back and I'm going to put more pink and more yellow in to blend the 2 separate color changes. Now I'm going to use my palm tree stickers, and I'm going to put them so that they are not really covering up the words. So you can adjust it depending on how big or how wide your margins are. And even if they do cover up the words, they're see-through, they're clear, so it's not a big deal. And you just cut off any excess that you have. And I'm going to place one at the top left corner, and then I'm also going to place one at the bottom right. Not necessarily in the corner, but just in the bottom right area. Anytime you're removing washi tape and it starts to rip your page, stop pulling and go from the other side so that you're pulling it off the rip instead of pulling the rip off. And it'll leave, you can see here, I've got like a flap of page, and I'm just going to use a glue stick and glue it right back down. And that way I didn't ruin my page, and it'll dry fine and you won't even be able to tell. Just a little tip for any time you run into washi tape that's too strong. So I'm going to take all the washi tape off, and then I'm going to put my Jesus sticker on, and I'm going to put him in the bottom left corner. Now, using my glazed black pen, my favorite pen of all time, I'm going to outline the scripture verses as well as my page with these dashes. Now, when you're doing this, be careful not to smudge. Like, it needs to dry before you can put your hand over it. So if you're going around and you have to put your hand over an area you just did, maybe shoot it with a heat gun first, just so that it dries really well and doesn't smudge. Because if it smudges, then there's really nothing you can do except put a sticker over it. Next, using a light board, and if you don't have a light board, you could even use an iPad. You want to take this traceable that's in your kit and stick it on your margin. It should fit better in your margin for the most part because the margin I'm using is a really small one. And I'm going over it with pencil first, very lightly. And I actually don't like the way that the O's loop up really high with this font. And so I just took the high loop out of mine with the pencil, but you can do it however you want. And you trace it on your page in pencil first, again, lightly. And if you have to erase, don't use the red end eraser because it can leave red smudges on your paper. And then when you're done, you have it right there on your page. And we're going to go back over it again in our black jelly roll pen. And as always, I have links in the video description to all the supplies that I'm using. So don't worry if you missed it during this video, you can get the details below. So I'm going to outline and fill in the lines with this jelly roll pen. Now, not the glaze pen, this is just a regular jelly roll pen. And I'm going to get it to where how I like it, and I'm going to make sure it's dry. And then after I know that it's dry and it won't smudge, then I'm going to lightly erase all of the pencil lines from underneath the ink so that you don't have any underlying smudging that will happen on your page later on. Now, using the Jelly Roll Gold Metallic Pen, and this came in your kit, I'm going to outline just the sides of the black, and I go right on top of the black lines because I'll fill them in after I'm done here. So I'm only doing it on the right side. If for whatever reason this is too hard for you, like on just the bold parts, or let's say you mess up and do the wrong side, you can also outline the entire thing like the way a stroke would look on Photoshop, and that would work, like that would look really nice too. So I go over each one a couple times with the gold pen just on the right sides, and then I'm going to go back over it after that's dry. So see, I'm drying it first. Then I'm going to go back over it with my jelly roll pen to fill back in the black lines that I covered up. So you can see it just cleans it up and makes it look a little bit nicer when I covered up the ones that are supposed to overlapping it. I get my glaze pen back out and I'm going to do an outline around the scripture. And since this scripture is half on the bottom, half on the top, I leave the bottom and the top parts open-ended. And it just kind of gives a look that lets you know it's not two separate verses, but it's one continuous verse. After that's dry, I get my metallic pen back out and I'm going to outline the important parts of this verse to me, especially about how he will rise from the dead, since this is supposed to be about his resurrection. And I just love the part where it talks about with healing in his wings. I think that's a really special phrase, and so I make sure to underline that. And then because I love my glaze pen so much, and I can't get enough of it, I decide to go over the thicker parts with just the glaze pen, because it's hard to tell in this video, but when it dries, it has like a little bit of a 3D effect where it raises off the page, and it just makes it look really shiny. And I use it all the time because I love it. But it's totally optional. You don't have to do it if you don't want to. And then I'm going to take this tab Rejoice and I'm going to attach it with photo splits or double-sided sticky tape, and you can put it wherever you want. I just put it where I thought it looked well with the page and the other tabs that I have behind my other pages. And then I'm using these stickers. You're either going to get 2 white and 1 red, or you're going to get 2 red and 1 white. It just depends. And I'm going to place them along the top. And we're done. I hope you enjoyed this video. Be sure to subscribe. See ya.